Hello, Advancing Noblesville Chamber Foundation new board members. I thought I would take a few minutes here to give some context to the board orientation file, Google file that I sent to you. And so I'm going to ask you if you have a chance to at least pull up the agenda first thing, because that'll make sense of all those materials here. But I would just quickly run through. Normally, in normal situations, we would have an hour session together to go through all the orientation materials before we get to the planning session, but due to time and schedule, we haven't been able to do that. But I did want to at least get resources to you so you have access to them when the time is right for you to review those, and then we can get together afterwards to answer questions that you might have. And I'm going to rush right through it to be efficient. So current board leadership, there is something called the governance file, the terms file in that packet, and it lists who we have. Just so you know who our board leadership, Christy Crosser from the Crosser Family Foundation and chair of this current Noblesville School Board, is the chair of our board, the foundation board. Thorpe Miller is the immediate past chair. He happens to be chair of the Chamber of Commerce board right now, and he's from Indiana Members Credit Union. Liz Tate has had a storied career in philanthropy, working at the Community Foundation, and she's going to actually be our facilitator for our planning session, and she's our secretary clerk. Aaron Smith, city councilor, owner of Matchbox. He's a consultant in marketing and communications, and he's treasurer of our board. Esther Lakes and Patrick Probst are the at-large members. Esther is retired from owning Smith Jewelers and has been a past chamber board chair, and now leads the Spotlight on the Arts fundraising initiative. Patrick's with Serve Noblesville and Faith Community Church and involved with our diversity coalition. And then there'll be the four of you that we've discussed previously who are joining the board. We're excited to have these connections with Riverview Health and Ivy Tech. There, Jay Mundy is coming just off the Main Street board, and so we're excited for some of that knowledge base to come over. And Chris Okada, the realtor, we've been eager to find a great place for Chris to share his community involvement and leadership, and so we're thrilled to have you on board. Chamber staff, there's a file folder in there that has our chamber staff here. We have 2 full-time staff and 1 part-time staff, and we have a position open that we'll be filling that's part-time as well. It also lists out the roles and responsibilities. I suggest you at some point look at it and you can see who's who. Chamber Foundation, the history. Back in 2019, we started meeting. We had surveyed the business community about their needs, their human resources needs, and in particular the area of diversity and inclusion. And it became apparent to us that we needed new tools to fill some programming to fill the needs of the business community. And then in 2020, with the murder of George Floyd, there was another outreach by the business community saying we need more support and more help in certain areas. And so we looked at forming a foundation, put a small group together, and it seemed to make sense for us. And so I would call your attention to a document that is in the folder. It's from our Association of Chamber of Commerce Execs, National Professional Development Association, and it outlines how chambers are using foundations, and it's just really good background information for you at your convenience. The chamber applied for its nonprofit status for the foundation in late 2020, and then in 2021 we received our nonprofit 501c3 status. And went through all the steps needed to have a separate chamber foundation that you now serve on. There is a sister relationship between the Chamber Foundation and the Chamber, 2 distinct corporations that are independent, but they have this symbiotic relationship to support one another. You will see in your packet, and this is something that we will address at a future board meeting, is a draft MOU between the chamber and the foundation that delineates how the financial relationship works, how the staff, the chamber staff serves the foundation as well, and some of those things. So I suggest that at some point you review that before we take that up for discussion. And then there's under mechanics. There's a lot of things that you may choose to review, but we definitely want you to have them at your disposal. The articles of incorporation with the state of Indiana that formed the foundation, our bylaws that govern the foundation. We will be asking you, not at the upcoming meeting, but probably at the next meeting, to sign a conflict of interest statement, which is kind of standard operating procedure for nonprofit organizations. And then indemnification and risk management. We want to let you know that we are insured. We have officers and directors insurance that does cover the chamber. It does not yet cover the foundation. It'll be a separate policy for the foundation. Now that we're receiving some larger grant dollars, we're going to budget that in for 2024. But there are no lawsuits out there against the chamber. No needs to worry about anything like that. And then terms and roles, go back to that same document that has the board listed. You can see the terms that are there for everyone. We are working on fresh job descriptions as we expanded the board, and so that's something that we will engage all of you in helping us draft those to make sure that there's clear expectations as to for what each board member is expected to bring to the table, and also how do we do that leadership development as we move along and move people up the leadership chain with our organization. We want you to jump in firsthand. We want you to hold back at all. You are all recruited to the board for particular reasons because you have a lot to bring to the table, and so we don't want you to be bashful about sharing that. We want you to help guide this this next step for the foundation. Areas of focus and program review. We're going to do a bit of that at the board planning retreat, but I did include a quick overview, the 4 pillar areas for the foundation that we've all talked about in some of our interviews: education, workforce development, health and well-being, our diversity and inclusion and belonging, and then community and economic development. And you can see some of our, on that one document, you can see our current work as well as it's noted some of the future work that is in the planning stages along the way in there. And under programs and grants, we have an existing grant from the Crosser Family Foundation for a program on inclusive leadership that we are still building out to launch it with the business community. It's tied to the Inclusive Leadership Summit that was co-hosted by lots of different entities, including the Noblesville Diversity Coalition, and our foundation financially supported it as well and helped do an awful lot of the administrative work for that particular event. We also have received a $750,000 grant that we'll talk more about from the state to fund some child care initiatives for our larger employers, and that by far is our largest grant that we have sought. We're in the early stages of implementing that grant, and you'll learn more about that. We also have a series of smaller grants that are in partnership with the other chambers in the county, as well as with Invest Hamilton County, and they are in several areas, but some are in education to create better employer and K-12 system connections. And so we'll have a facilitator on our staff that is grant funded that we're sharing with the other chambers to help bridge that gap. There also is a series of programming on disability employment that we're doing, and those again are with Invest Hamilton County, and there's a note in your packet, in the orientation packet, that kind of gives a very, very brief overview of some of those programs going forward. Future work, we have a grant in the works on career counseling. That is a state initiative, and chambers are now in a position. Chamber foundations are in a position to apply for those grants. We're going to continue our work in mental health. And we are working with a new relationship with Aspire on some of that, and you'll hear more about that on Wednesday as well. How are we funded? The administrative costs are carried by the chamber as we get off the ground. We do invite our chamber members to add on $25 under the dues on an annual basis to donate towards the foundation, as well as if they want to make a larger donation, they can. And so we have received some modest funding from that. We do receive grant funding that we just talked about, and then there is the Advancing Noblesville Awards program, which is intended to be a business recognition and organization recognition and individual recognition program, but also act as a fundraising event at this point. We're going to reevaluate that program a little bit, but that's really where our funding comes from, those three sources at this point. It's really modest funding. There is some administrative funding that comes through that one grant, the child care grant, that will allow us to build infrastructure. And so you'll see in your packet there's a financial procedures manual that is about 30 pages long. It's in draft format because the sizable grant of $750,000, it triggers an additional financial review for our foundation by the state. And so we need to build systems and put them in place in 2024 to match the scrutiny that the state will give us or the federal government will give us on those grant dollars. So you'll have some discussion on some of those some of those items going forward. So I guess long and short of it, what you're going to find is we're taking that next growth stage, and we're organizing some systems, building some systems to put them in place to protect the organization, to protect all of us, and to build a structure that allows us to achieve our mission and work on these programming. You also will see a build out of programming within those specific areas, 4 areas of focus, and I think you'll all see where you fit into those 4 areas, and so we're looking for your guidance in those items. We will get together to answer questions here, but I didn't want to go past 15 minutes, and hopefully you got to this point, but I wanted to walk you through the packet a little bit to give you an overview of where we've been, where we're going. It's an exciting time here for the Chamber Foundation to take that next step, and we wouldn't be able to take that next step without you at the table with us. And so we appreciate your willingness to share your leadership and talents with us as we grow the Chamber Foundation. And so we thank you for that support. We will see, hopefully we see many of you, all of you, on Wednesday morning for our session, and then we will at that session we'll also talk about our meeting schedule going forward. We want to make sure that we have a meeting cadence that and dates and times that work for everyone. So thank you again for your willingness to share your leadership with us, and I appreciate you listening. We haven't done this type of recording and video message out. If it works, and if I can be more efficient with my time and give you a shorter message, I will. But we're hopeful that this allows you to view this at your leisure when it fits into your schedule. So thanks, and we'll be in touch soon.